Good evening all, and on behalf of the Executive Committee, I thank you for joining us on the 19th of May 2020 to commemorate the victims of the Greek Genocide. Though we commemorate all victims of genocide that was perpetrated on the Armenian, Assyrian and Greek peoples of Anatolia, today we bring special attention to the region of Pontos, the region of our ancestors, where the second phase of the genocide began 101 years ago, May 19, 1919. The continuing global pandemic situation has been the cause of much sorrow in all communities worldwide, and we pray that you and your loved ones stay safe and healthy. Our Federation has prepared a moving tribute to the memories of our ancestors, and we are very grateful that you have chosen to share this experience with us. The tribute, like this speech, is in English. Our Federation, with its youth, have undertaken the demonstrably difficult task to educate those outside of our community, and we feel the best way to do it is to use the most accessible language on the globe today. Coming from an English-speaking country, it is our responsibility to do so. Now, a warning that the horrors of genocide can be overwhelming, and many of the stories and visuals in tonight's presentation may be disturbing for some viewers, so please view it at your discretion. There are many people to thank for making what you are about to see possible. However, due to time constraints, I will mention one amazing fact that I hope illustrates for you just who we are, what we stand for, and what road our future is on. The pandemic has upheaved many lives and has decimated our physical connection to one another. Isolated, our youth approached our committee and suggested that a national approach be taken to commemorate the genocide. It is important to point out that our National Youth Committee was only formed this year, many of whom have only just met each other. In less than 3 weeks, over 30 youths across 3 states overcame a myriad of hurdles that life had thrown their way to bring you tonight's presentation. I have never been prouder to call myself a Pontian Greek than I am today, and I owe it to them. These 3rd and 4th generation youth have demonstrated the leadership skills to ensure that the legacy of our ancestors, the people we commemorate today, continues to grow. Our role as community leaders is to develop leaders. Leaders with the tenacity and confidence to not only overcome insurmountable odds, such as their ancestors did a century ago to preserve their identity, but leaders with the patience and understanding to work together respectfully to achieve the impossible. For this to have come about during my presidency is both a humbling and moving experience and a credit to the parents of these outstanding young Greeks, as well as the strong and progressive leadership of all members of the Federation of Pontian Associations of Australia. We hope you truly appreciate and find the following presentation fulfilling and meaningful. Long live Australia. Long live Greece. Long live Pontos. And long live the Federation of Pontian Associations of Australia.
Είμαστε, θυμάμαι, με είχαμε βρει έξω από το χωρί. Έξω. Την εκκλησία μας θυμάμαι. Το πατέρα μου δεν θυμάμαι καθόλου. Δεν γνώρισα πατέρα. Στο κουντάκι ήμουνα όταν μας σκότωσαν. Το κουντάκι με είχε η αδελφή μου στην αγκαλιά της και με πήγε να δει το πατέρα της που και ο πατέρας μας φερμένος σηκώθηκε να δει εμένα πώς με έχει η αδελφή μου Ξανά τον περιμένω, τον σκότωνα. Μπροστά στην εκκλησία μας τον σκότωνα τον πατέρα.
Hello and thank you for joining us. Today is a journey. We will journey into the past to understand who the Greeks of Pontus are, why the 19th of May is so significant, and the strong connection Australia has with our ancestors' history. We will hear the words of support from prominent community members as well as our very passionate and active youth. Finally, we have a musical collaboration piece recorded from living rooms across Australia. To those like me who are descendants of victims of genocide, commemorating is hard and can be very uncomfortable. But that is exactly how it should be. We should never be comfortable with what happened. That does not mean because it is confronting or unpleasant, we should avoid it. The genocide is the reason why some of us are here and others are not. And to not understand the genocide of your people is to deny a core building block of who you are. Commemoration is a reminder that you are not alone, and the pain you have is one that we all share. To those of you who are not descendants of genocide victims and support our cause, then we humbly thank you for your sacrifice. You walk in the footsteps of heroes such as Prologue and Cresswell. You honour us and honour the memories of our ancestors. For that, we are eternally grateful. Thank you once again, and on behalf of every member of our federation, we wish you well, good health, and God bless. May the memories be eternal. Ian Gevroyan.
Tonight, today, 19 May 2020, we mark the Commemoration Day, the Remembrance Day, ημέρα μνήμης, of the genocide of the Hellenes of the Greeks of Pontos. 19 May was decided as the Remembrance Day because it marks the beginning of the second, bloodier and more violent phase of the genocide of the indigenous peoples, of the indigenous Hellenes of Anatolia. 19 May 1919 is when Mustafa Kemal landed in a port city called Samsunda and began the second phase of his revolution. This is why this day is marked as the day of remembrance of the victims of the genocide of the Hellenes of Pontos.
Αγαπητοί εν Χριστώ αδελφοί, Χριστός Ανέστη. Με περισσή συγκίνηση σας απευθύνω το παρόν μήνυμα επ' ευκαιρία των εκδηλώσεων μνήμης της γενοκτονίας των Ελλήνων του Πόντου, της Μικράς Ασίας και της Ανατολικής Θράκης. Οι Έλληνες του Πόντου αποτελούν ένα παλέφατο κομμάτι της ελληνικής διαχρονίας και ένα πολύτιμο ζωντανό μέλος του μείζωνος ελληνισμού και συνεπώς η τραγωδία της γενοκτονίας που υπέστησαν από κοινού με τους χριστιανικούς πληθυσμούς των Αρμενίων και Ασσυρίων στις αρχές του 20ου αιώνος δεν μπορεί παρά να σηματοδοτεί για τις συνειδήσεις των απανταχού Ελλήνων Ορθοδόξων ένα ανίποτο τραύμα. Ένα τραύμα όμως που πρωτίστως οι ίδιοι οι Έλληνες του Πόντου μεταποίησαν μέσω της πίστεώς τους και των στερών εκκλησιαστικών καταβολών τους σε πρόκληση για εκ νέου κατάφαση της ζωής και της δημιουργικότητας ως δώρον του τριαδικού Θεού. Μέσα από τις αδυσόπιτες συμπληγάδες της νεότερης ιστορίας, οι εκπόντου αδελφοί μας προσέφεραν στο Πανελλήνιο μερικές από τις πιο λαμπρές σελίδες του δυναμισμού και της αντοχής της ελληνικής ψυχής. Οι παρατηρήσεις αυτές έχουν ως σκοπό να καταστήσουν την ευθύνη της τραγωδίας της γενοκτονίας υπόθεση ακόμα πιο επιτακτική. Αφενός μεν ως απέτηση αναγνώρισης, αφετέρου δε ως εξζήτηση ειλικρινούς συμφιλιώσεως. Ωστόσο, τόσο η μία όσο και η άλλη είναι εφικτές μονάχα μέσω της υπέρβασης της μυσαλλοδοξίας, της εμπέδωσης του αμοιβαίου σεβασμού και της καλλιέργειας της ιστορικής μνήμης. Γι' αυτό και δράσεις όπως αυτές, τις οποίες επί σειρά ετών διοργανώνει και πραγματοποιεί η Ομοσπονδία Ποντιακών Σωματείων Αυστραλίας, όχι μόνο προσανατολίζονται προς τη σωστή κατεύθυνση, αλλά επίσης αποτελούν παράδειγμα προς μίμηση για όλους, εφόσον υπηρετούν με τον καλύτερο δυνατό τρόπο την διατήρηση της ιστορικής μνήμης και την τιμή προς τους νεκρούς που άδικα χάθηκαν κατά τη γενοκτονία. Είναι σημαντικό να μην ξεχνάμε τίποτα, να μην ξεχνάμε τις λευκές πορείες θανάτου, τα στρατόπεδα καταναγκαστικών έργων, την καταστροφή της Σμύρνης, τους εκτοπισμούς και τους εξανδραποδισμούς, τους μάρτυρες επισκόπους Χρυσόστομο Σμύρνης, Γρηγόριο Κιδωνιών, Αμβρόσιο Μοσχονησίων, Προκόπιο Εικονίου και Ευθύμιο Ζήλων. Το αίμα των χιλιάδων που έρευσε υπέρ πίστεως και πατρίδος. Όταν δεν ξεχνάμε, γνωρίζουμε ποιοι είμαστε. Όταν δεν ξεχνάμε, έχουμε τη δύναμη που χρειαζόμαστε να συνεχίσουμε το ταξίδι μας μέσα στην ιστορία προς τη Βασιλεία του Θεού. Όταν δεν ξεχνάμε, γινόμαστε τύπος και υπογραμμός για όλα τα έθνη. Είμαι πεπισμένος ότι και φέτος θα ανανεώσετε το σθένος της ψυχής σας και θα επαναβεβαιώσετε το χρέος σας απέναντι στους νεκρούς προγόνους και τους αγέννητους που μέλη να αναζητήσουν σε εσάς, σε όλους μας, λόγων ζωής και λόγων ελπίδος. Επί δε τούτης συγχαίρον και πάλι τους διοργανωτές και τους μετέχοντες, διατελώ με τα πολλής εν Χριστώ αναστάντη αγάπης και διαπύρων ευχών.
Κυρίες και κύριοι, με ιδιαίτερο σεβασμό στα εκατοντάδες χιλιάδες θύματα του ποντιακού ελληνισμού που χάθηκαν πριν από 100 χρόνια, σας απευθύνω σήμερα χαιρετισμό για την ποντιακή γενοκτονία. Σημειώνω ότι η Βουλή των Ελλήνων, με ομόφωνη απόφασή της, η οποία έγινε νόμος του κράτους, καθιέρωσε τη 19η Μαΐου ως ημέρα μνήμης για τη γενοκτονία των Ελλήνων στο Μικρασιατικό Πόντο. Η αναγνώριση αυτή συμβάλλει στη διατήρηση της ιστορικής μνήμης και αποτείει φόρο τιμής στους Έλληνες του Πόντου, τόσο σε αυτούς που εξολοθρεύτηκαν στη γη του Πόντου, όσο και σε αυτούς που ξεριζωμένοι έφτασαν στην Ελλάδα, αφήνοντας πίσω τους τα ιερά προγονικά εδάφη και μια ιστορία και πολιτισμό χιλιάδων ετών. Οι Πόντιοι που εγκαταστάθηκαν στην Ελλάδα ενσωματώθηκαν στην κοινωνία και συνέβαλαν αποφασιστικά στην ανάπτυξη της πατρίδας και στην προώθηση της πνευματικής, πολιτιστικής, οικονομικής και εμπορικής της ζωής. Η θυσία των Ελλήνων του Πόντου δεν πήγε χαμένη. Αποτελεί παρακαταθήκη για όλη την ανθρωπότητα και δίδει ένα ηχηρό μήνυμα ώστε η τελευταία να μην ζήσει ξανά ποτέ παρόμοιες εφιαλτικές καταστάσεις. Σας ευχαριστώ και σας συγχαίρω για το έργο που επιτελείτε στην Αυστραλία για την εδώ διατήρηση της ποντιακής παράδοσης και των δικαίων του ποντιακού ελληνισμού. Γεώργιος Παπακώστας, πρέσβης της Ελλάδος στην Αυστραλία.
Σι καλομάλας σοκρέβαν κάθε taking time out of my day on the 19th of May to go on social media and commemorate.
By tuning in to all the live streams that are happening across the Federation.
I will light a candili beneath my icons.
I will commemorate the day by attending the memorial service.
I will remember and commemorate the genocide by reading and learning more about the Greek Genocide.
We'll be holding a special service with the priest.
Through our strong online cross-national community, contributing to initiatives like this one that seek to unite us in remembrance.
I will be going to the monument here in Salisbury.
It's a weird feeling commemorating in isolation, but I will be sure to pay my respects to our ancestors.
We will be commemorating with a trisaio, with a priest, and remembering our loved ones.
We still have to remember and reflect.
Remembering is recognising an event and maintaining its relevance in our daily lives.
With current social distancing laws still in place, social media seems to be the ideal platform for spreading the message, so that is my choice of what I will use to commemorate the genocide.
I will ensure to remember and recognise the past.
By lighting a candle remembering our ancestors.
By watching the commemorative services on May 19th organised by the Pontian Brotherhood of South Australia and the Federation of Pontian Associations of Australia.
To our brothers and sisters, Akritsu Pondu, Melbourne, Australia commemorates the memories of our ancestors on this, the darkest chapter of our community's history. We are proud to be actively involved in activities not only preserving the culture and identity of our ancestors, but also to be actively working on the goal of recognition. This year, our association, together with the Federation of Pontian Associations of Australia, the Hellenic Council of Australia, the Armenian National Committee, and the Assyrian Universal Alliance, launched the Joint Justice Initiative. Recognition of the genocide of our people is mandatory if we are ever to reconcile the past. That is why we remember not only the 353,000 Greek victims of the region of Pontos, but all victims of the genocide that devastated 3 ancient indigenous communities from Anatolia. We will remember you always, and thank you every day for having been born a Pontian Greek. Good health, God bless, Ian Givloian.
Ατίν κι θα γερούν όπως εμείς. Τα χρόνια κι θα νεγκάσνατς κι ούτε θα κρίνατς. Και όταν ο ήλιον βασιλεύ και όταν χαράζ ο ήλιον, εμείς πάντα θα θυμούμαστε. That was a very well-known and famous English poem which was just translated into the language of my ancestors, a 2,000-year-old Greek dialect which 100 years ago was brought to the brink of extinction under the 20th century's most savage crimes against humanity. Like that poem says, we have never forgotten them, and at the going down of the sun, we'll always remember them. Upon the struggle and survival of our identity and our culture. But most importantly, this time every year, we reinforce our commitment of seeking justice for all those victims. We also may be able to offer those victims and their descendants some peace. We all want peace, but peace does not exist without justice. On the behalf of my committee and the members of the Pan-Pontian United of the Virgin Sumelan, New South Wales, I'd like to congratulate our Federation and our New South Wales Genocide Committee for finding ways to continue this commemoration this year under the strict restrictions of the COVID-19 crisis. Iunia imnimitus, lest we forget.
Hello, I'm Chris Katsidis, President of the Pontian Brotherhood of South Australia. It is important to commemorate the Greek Genocide 19th of May because we need to always remember where we come from. Our ancestors, without them we have no one. We know history, without them we would not be here today. To our ancestors, we will never forget you and where we came from. We will never let the culture die. You will always be remembered forever in our hearts, eternal.
Η 19 Μαΐου, ημέρα μνήμης γενοκτονίας, 353 ψυχές δώσαν την ζωή τους για μας, τους ζώντας, να πούμε την ιστορία.
May the 19th is the day that we commemorate and reflect on what our ancestors endured during the period of the genocide. We remember their emotions, their pain, their starvation, their fight for survival, the killing, and the courage for the survivors to find a new place to call home, a place to belong. It is our duty to share their stories of survival and be their voice for the future and for our next generation. We will continue to remember our past, keep our history alive, and fight to never let this happen again. May their memory be eternal. Ioneatis Mimis.
My name is Angela Triandafilou. I am the president of the Canberra Pontian Club. I would like to say a few words about what commemoration means to me. This is a time we come together to remember, honour, and respect our people that have died and suffered immense pain through no fault of their own. It is a time in history that has affected us deeply. Thank you.
For millennia, around the coasts and in the neighbouring hinterland, the Hellenes have lived in what we now call Anatolia and Eastern Thrace, the modern state of Turkey. Further east, up in the Armenian plateau and down in the river valleys is where the Assyrians lived, and this is why we are called the indigenous peoples of Anatolia. The first Turks arrived in the 11th century, about 900 years ago, and established their first state in 1061 in and around a city called Ikonio. Today it's called Konya. They ruled this land for a long time, but the multicultural, diverse, multi-ethnic, multi-religious population remained, increasingly Islamized over time, but still with substantial indigenous populations of the native Christians. This began to change with the arrival of a concept called nationalism in the late 1800s and early 1900s. The Turks were the last people to develop, along with the Kurds, a national identity. Really not until the 1880s, 1890s do we start getting this. A conceptualization of what it means to be Turkish, with a focus on language and the Islamic faith. A series of battlefield defeats, particularly to the Russian Empire throughout the 1800s, created a sense of fear within the Ottoman Empire of the ruling elite that the Christians are encroaching, the native Christians of Anatolia are helping the outside Christian powers like the British, like the Italians, like the Russians, to take and eventually swallow up the entire Ottoman Turkish Empire. And really brought home the message to the ruling Young Turk, the nickname is the Young Turk or the Ittihad, governing party of the empire, and to the Sultan, that something radical needed to be done. And the radical that needed to be done was the Turkification and Islamization of the entire population of the territories that they wanted to keep as the core of a Turkish empire. This plan began to be formulated about 1908, 1909. It was discussed openly for the first time at the Party Congress in Thessaloniki in 1910, and we have the reports both from the Turkish media and from the Times of London, for example, of what was discussed. And it was a plan for genocide, to disarm non-Muslims, to stop them making money, to stop them making a living, to make conditions so difficult for them that they would leave, and the ones that would not leave would be killed.
Christ is risen, Christos Anesti, is with all my heart that I welcome the initiative of the Federation of Pontian Associations of Australia, and in particular its youth department, to honour the Greek Genocide. As we know, the Pontian Genocide was the systematic ethnic cleansing of the Christian Ottoman Greek population from its historic homeland in Asia Minor, Central Anatolia, Pontos, and the Russian Caucasus, and elsewhere, if we as Greeks are one body, we must be acutely aware that any harm caused to any Greek person, any part of the world in any historic period of time will profoundly affect all of us. Any harm done to any person is a harm done to every person who is created in the image and likeness of God. We carry on this same identity with the way that we see each human person reflected and created in the image of God. This genocide needs to be commemorated, it needs to be spoken about. May these commemorations make us stronger in our fights for justice, in our inspiration to live in truth and wisdom. May they inspire our families, our communities, and may they make a world a greater place. Such commemorations honor the human person and give great help and hope to the rest of human civilization. May God remember all those who have fallen asleep. May we always remember them and be inspired by their values, their love for life and their love for God. Christos Anesti, God bless.
Η μνήμη θα νικήσει τη λύθη. Δεν θα ξεχάσουμε ποτέ. 19 Μαΐου, στην Αυστραλία και σε κάθε γωνιά του πλανήτη μας τιμούμε τη μνήμη των αδικοχαμένων προγόνων μας.
Και φέμσο μέρωμα να παν κι εγώ είμαι ματωμένος, ξαν κι εγώ είμαι ματωμένος.
Στέλνουμε αγωνιστικούς χαιρετισμούς στην Ομοσπονδία Ποντιακών Σωματείων Αυστραλίας και τους συγχαίρουμε για την πρωτοβουλία τους να διοργανώσουν φέτος διαδικτυακές εκδηλώσεις μνήμης για τους γενοκτονημένους προγόνους μας. Συνεχίζουμε να αγωνιζόμαστε ενωμένοι με τους Αρμένιους και τους Ασσύριους αδελφούς μας μέχρι την τελική δικαίωση των θυμάτων. Δεν θα επιτρέψουμε στην Τουρκία να περάσει το μήνυμα ότι τότε δεν συνέβη τίποτα. Θα είμαστε πάντα απέναντί της, ενώνοντας τη φωνή μας με τη φωνή χιλιάδων ακτιβιστών από όλο τον κόσμο, αγωνιζόμενοι κατά των αποτρόπων εγκλημάτων που διέπραξε και συνεχίζει να διαπράττει ακόμη και σήμερα εναντίον και του κουρδικού λαού. Τέλος, θέλουμε να εκφράσουμε τη συμπαράστασή μας στον αγώνα που δίνει η Ομοσπονδία Ποντιακών Σωματείων Αυστραλίας αλλά και όλοι οι ομογενειακοί φορείς για την αναγνώριση της γενοκτονίας των Ελλήνων του πόνου και είμαστε σίγουροι ότι οι προσπάθειές τους θα ευοδοθούν και θα επιτύχουν το στόχο τους.
Ενώ είμαστε σε αυτή την φάση της πανδημίας, εμείς συνεχίζουμε να παλεύουμε για την αναγνώριση της γενοκτονίας των Ελλήνων του πόντου και αυτό γίνεται από όλα τα σημεία του κόσμου. Γι' αυτό χαίρομαι που αυτή τη φορά συγκεντρώνεται διαδικτυακά και η Μελβούρνη, δηλαδή που θα αντιπροσωπεύει την Αυστραλία σε αυτόν τον αγώνα, γιατί μπορεί οι συνθήκες να είναι αντίξωες, μπορεί τα πράγματα να είναι δύσκολα για πολλούς, αλλά αυτό δεν σημαίνει ότι ξεχνάμε τους νεκρούς, δεν σημαίνει ότι ξεχνάμε την πράξη βαρβαρότητας και γι' αυτό συνεχίζουμε με έναν πολύ ξεκάθαρο τρόπο, χρησιμοποιώντας τα εργαλεία του 21ου αιώνα, αυτόν τον αγώνα για τη μνήμη. Γιατί άμα δεν το κάνουμε εμείς, ποιος άλλος θα το κάνει και άμα δεν μπορούμε να το πούμε με αυτόν τον τρόπο, ποιος θα το πει. Άρα λέμε, ακόμα και σε αυτή τη φάση, ότι δεν ξεχνάμε, ότι συνεχίζουμε και με αυτόν τον τρόπο να ξέρει η βαρβαρότητα ότι θα είμαστε απέναντί της, γιατί πάντοτε υπηρετούμε την ανθρωπότητα και θεωρούμε ότι η μνήμη, η αξιοπρέπεια και η συνέχεια αυτού του αγώνα αντιπροσωπεύει τις ψυχές των γενοκτονημένων.
Ύμνος του πόντου. Ήρθε η μέρα, ήρθε η ώρα, που προσμέναμε με χρόνια, στα δεσμά στην καταφρόνια και στην τουρκική σκλαβιά. Εις του πόντου τα κροβούνια, καρδιοφύλια μαυρισμένα, φέρουν το 21, ψάλλουν την ελευθεριά. της Ανάστασης σημαίνει η καμπάνα η μεγάλη, ο καθένας μας σας βάλει τη λαμπρότερη στολή. Και μπροστά στην εικόνα της πατρίδας στην Αγία, ας προσφέρει για θυσία νιάτα πλούτη και ζωή. Εις του πόντι μας το χώμα των μαρτύρων ένα μνήμα του τυράννου μακριά. Μας σκαλούν εκτικητάδες, ζωντανοί και πεθαμένοι, η πατρίδα ερημωμένη μας καλεί εμπρός παιδιά.
Genocide of the Pontian Greek men, women and children. Thousands of people were killed. They lost their homes, their belongings and their homeland. They never lost their language, religion and culture. Our generation needs to keep this alive by learning our ancestors' history, learning their songs and dance. We must never forget the victims and the survivors.
The lost homeland Pontos. Life in Pontos changed forever when the Turkish knife drilled through the Pontic Greek heart. The Greek Genocide began. Thousands of innocents murdered, churches burnt. Life in Pontos changed forever when the Pontic music and dancing stopped and the endless death marches across the Anatolian desert began. Life in Pontos changed forever when the Turkish knife drilled through the Pontic Greek heart.
Η γενοκτονία σημαίνει μια περίοδο πόνου, σκληρότητας, αδικίας, κλοπής, μια περίοδο θανάτου.
The Hellenic genocide was a brutal event in our past, which involved the slaughtering of hundreds of thousands of innocent people in the most inhumane ways possible. Although we all wish to forget the events that took place over 100 years ago, it is important that we remember the victims and the survivors, and also keep our Pontian heritage alive by speaking the language and learning all the traditions and customs.
What the genocide means to me is that I'm able to grow a connection and understanding of the hardships my grandparents and heritage had to endure in their lives. I've been able to feel their pain and know what it means to be a survivor from these times, and realize the importance of not only remembering our past, but how we must continue to forge from it.
Recollect, recall, reminisce, or to bring an image or a thought from the past into the mind.
Remembrance is more than just a passive action. Dynamic initiatives that create connection across our communities strengthen our sense of identity.
Remembering our history is remembering the pain our ancestors had to go through. It creates a form of respect.
Είναι σημαντικό να θυμόμαστε για να κρατάμε ζωντανές παραδόσεις μας, τον πολιτισμό μας και να δώσουμε ένα φόρο τιμής σε αυτούς που θανατωθήκαν εκείνη την περίοδο.
It means to reminisce what the ancestors have gone through.
To remember means to bring an idea or image from the past into your mind. It will help us learn the difference between right and wrong.
To remember the hardships and struggles that have been faced by Pontians in our history.
To remember means to give the respect that is due to those who went under such horrible conditions and lost their lives for us.
Η γενοκτονία σημαίνει θλίψη, καταστροφή, πείνα και θάνατος της φυλής μας. Είναι σημαντικό να θυμόμαστε γιατί αυτά που είχαν γίνει στους προγόνους μας δεν θέλουμε να γίνουν ξανά.
To thank our ancestors for their sacrifice and for our lives today.
Remembering the past atrocities against our people and the hardships they faced.
Memory never dies.
Keep our history alive.
It is important for us to acknowledge our ancestors.
And it's also important for us to remember all the hardships they faced in order for us to be where we are today.
To remember is to pay my respects to the martyrs of all our nations.
To remember is to retain the history and the memory of those who died.
To remember means to recognise the pain and loss of our ancestors and to note the sacrifices they made in which has impacted us in the present.
To relate the past to our current selves.
World War I, as we know, broke out in July of 1914. What most people do not know is that the persecutions of the indigenous Hellenes, the Greeks of Eastern Thrace, had begun a few months earlier. Already by the beginning of the war, there were something like 300,000 refugees in Greek territory, in Greece, from the Eastern Thrace and the coast of Asia Minor. The Greek population had been systematically expelled, looted of all their assets. This was happening from about the end of 1913, beginning of 1914, right through to the beginning of World War I. This is really important to remember, that the genocide process began in the Ottoman Empire before World War I. World War I, and especially the catastrophic defeat of the Ottoman army at a battle called Sadi Kamish, is what provoked the massacres, starting with the Armenians and the Assyrians in the eastern part of the empire.
On behalf of Armenian Australians, I wish to express my sincere condolences on this day commemorating the Greek Genocide. I look forward to continuing to walk shoulder to shoulder with our Greek and Assyrian sisters and brothers until recognition of the genocide suffered by our ancestors is achieved in Australia and justice is delivered. We remember, we demand.
The Pontian, Greek, Armenian and Assyrian genocide of 1915 will remain an event that is forever ingrained in the collective identity of our communities in the diaspora. On behalf of the Armenian Youth Federation of Australia, we would like to pay our utmost respect and condolences to the Pontian Greek Australian community in their time of grievance and remembrance. 105 years on, as descendants and survivors of the genocide, we demand for justice for our ancestors, and we hope to reflect on the tragedies that befell them and hope to continue to share the cultures and the customs that they passed down to us.
My name is Hermes Shaheen, and on behalf of the Assyrian Universal Alliance and the Assyrian Australian National Federation, I would like to thank the Federation of the Pontian Association of Australia for organizing this important event, as well as our friends who are following today's commemoration from their own homes. Assyrians, Armenians, and Greeks have learned the importance of working together to continue to educate our new generation about this horrific genocide by the Ottoman Empire and to obtain justice to the innocent souls that perished as a result of the genocide. It's our duty, everyone's duty, to remember and observe episode of genocide forever. Thank you.
Αγαπητής Έλληνας, εμείς δεν ξεχνάμε τη γενοκτονία με τους Έλληνας, Αρμίνοι και Ασσυριών. Τα άλλα θα το πω στα Εγγλέζικα. Εγώ είμαι ο Ιάκωβος Χαβίλ. On May the 19th, we extend to all Greek Australians our friendship and prayers. The Assyrian community stands side by side with all Greek people in pursuit of justice. We remain with you today, tomorrow, and forever.
It is no coincidence that once the bulk of the Armenian population and the Assyrian population had been destroyed or deported out of, away from the battlefields into the deserts of what is now northern Syria and northern Iraq, to places like Deir Zor, where the Euphrates River, which is so important, it's the lifeblood, both of northeast Syria and of Iraq, were choked with corpses. The waters were so polluted they could not be drunk. In some places where the river bent, the corpses actually formed dams that needed to be cleared to enable the water to flow again. This is all documented particularly by German servicemen. So by 1916, 1917, with the bulk of the Armenian and the Assyrian population destroyed or deported, scattered, leaderless, is when the Ottoman government, the Turkish state, started turning its attention to the Greeks. Eastern Pontus was under the control of the Russians at this time. So Western Pontos is what copped the hammer blow at this time. So we're talking about places like Kastamoni, Sinope, Pafra, Neokesaria, and this is why so many Pontians in Australia and in Greece and scattered around the world, their people, their relatives, their ancestors are from Eastern Pontos. 1918, the Ottoman Empire collapsed and surrendered. First Bulgaria surrendered in September of 1918. In October of 19 with the famous armistice of Mudros. And this is where the first phase of the genocide ended. The survivors started going home from about October, November of 1918. A new democratic government was installed in Constantinople to negotiate a peace treaty with the Allies. And there was still a number of people, the elements, the bureaucrats, the military leadership that was resisting any sort of compromise, any sort of surrender of what they considered Turkish territory. 19 May 1919, the beginning of the Kemal or the nationalist revolution inside Turkey. Mustafa Kemal understood that he needed allies in this fight. So he turns to the Bolsheviks, who were also isolated. They were fighting a civil war inside Russia to control the Russian Empire. The hammer blow fell first and fell most extensively in the east, this time Eastern Pontos, as the White Russian forces withdrew. A short-lived attempt to create a federation between Pontos and the newborn Republic of Armenia was completely destroyed, particularly by the efforts of Kazim Karabashir, one of Mustafa Kemal's generals. So by 1921, the focus turned west. And this is why on May 1919 is marked as the memorial day of the Pontian genocide, or the genocide of the Hellenes of Pontos. Because this is where the blow fell hardest first. By burning these villages, by destroying these homes, these churches. The message was very clear. You have no place here. If you stay, you will die. The end of the war between the Greek army and Kemal's army, by then the Turkish army, in August of 1922, the beginning of September of 1922, it was finished with the, as was called by the National Geographic, the Holocaust of Smyrni. Smyrni was destroyed by fire. Although there have been repeated accounts over the years, efforts by the Turkish state to lay the blame either on Armenians or on the retreating Greek soldiers, every contemporary account points the finger at Kemal's soldiers systematically looting and then burning the entire Christian part of the city, which was more than 3/4 of the entire city. This is the Holocaust of Smyrni, which we commemorate in September. This was September 1922. All non-Muslims were to leave Turkish-controlled territory by the end of November 1922. This was obviously pushed out by a few months because it was just physically impossible to get everybody out, those who survived. The last ones did not leave, and the last ones to leave were from Cappadocia in 1924. And this is why we say that the Hellenic genocide was between 1914 and 1924. We remember the Anzacs who were held prisoner of war between 1915 and 1918 in various parts, particularly of Western Pontos. We remember their memoirs. We remember their sacrifices. We remember the eyewitnesses. We remember their accounts, what they wrote, what they left behind, the testimonies of the deportation marches, of kilometres of human remains, dead bodies and skeletal remains running along the sides of the roads, which they saw. We remember the churches, the houses, the monasteries that were their prisons in places like Kastamoni, in places like Pafra, in places like Sinope. All of these are in Western Pontos. While most of the Anzacs were held in Asia Minor, in places like Dorileo, Afyon Karahisar, Akroinos, and other places further west, and were eventually, once they were released, exited the land through Smyrni and saw Smyrni in its heyday. We do not forget that some of them did not come back. About 1/3 of the Anzacs who were taken prisoner never came home. Like your ancestors, like the Pontians, the Asia Minor Greeks, the Thracians, they left their bones in unmarked graves generally, scattered around Asia Minor. A number of these are still recorded as missing in action. A number of these are still recorded as unknown, no known grave, and are commemorated on the memorial wall in the Baghdad North Gate Cemetery in Iraq. We had Anzacs who came back to Australia, told here their families, their local communities, what they saw, what they heard. We remember on this day especially really special Australian individuals, like the Reverend James Cresswell from Adelaide, like Colonel George Devine Trelaw from Ballarat in Victoria, like the Archbishop of Melbourne, the Anglican Archbishop of Melbourne, and the community around St Paul's Cathedral in Melbourne, who organised and took this relief effort, this relief aid, took it physically to the people who needed it the most. Trelaw was in Greece for a few years, as the story is well known, established communities out of nothing, out of thin air, out of farmland. These communities continue to exist, continue to thrive today. These are the people who are the real heroes. We demand the recognition, the justice of recognition. Recognition not just academic, which we have achieved. There is no serious scholar today that doubts that the experiences of the Greeks, the Armenians, the Assyrians constituted genocide. We demand the political recognition. As Australians, Australian citizens, Australian taxpayers, we demand that our representatives, the ones that we elect, pass motions of recognition in the local parliaments as well. Just as South Australia did in 2009, just as New South Wales did in 2013. We want other states to do the same, and above all, we would like the Commonwealth Government to do the same.
That concludes our commemoration video, and again, we'd like to thank everyone involved for making it a reality. We will leave you with 2 additional videos, one being final thoughts from our youth, and then a cross-collaboration of musicians from across Australia, Darwin, Adelaide, Melbourne, Sydney, who put together from their living rooms an ode to our people. Thank you once again for joining us. May the memory be eternal. Ian Giveaway.
Σήκαλο μάνας, σοκ
In commemorating together, there is solidarity, and not only among Pontian Greeks, but also the Armenian and Assyrian communities. We have a shared understanding of the generational pain felt by us all, and in commemorating together, although current circumstances not allowing this to be physically, we know we are not alone. This unity among our nations demonstrates our strength, and that we are not only surviving, but in fact thriving.
To me, the genocide is our history. The suffering our great-grandparents and their parents went through to give us our lives. Entire villages and cities were destroyed, along with thousands of deaths and thousands of people being forced to abandon their homes and flee to other countries. It is important that we not only learn about the genocide because it is our history, but to acknowledge the sacrifices our ancestors went through.
Genocide is understood to be the greatest crime against humanity, and is the mass extermination of a whole group of people in an attempt to wipe them out of existence. It is important to commemorate in order for history not to be repeated, and for us to honour the memory of our ancestors.
We are descendants of a Pontic refugee that experienced the genocide.
Lest we forget.
It's important to commemorate because commemorating a loss of the past contributes to our present and future identities.
It's important to commemorate together this year because weak moments in history didn't stop our ancestors, and it shouldn't stop us from remembering the sacrifices they made for us.
Communities and individuals are strongest when united, and social media allows our cultural communities to connect, share and grow.
No matter what hardships are thrown at us, we will always stick together.
It is still important that we commemorate together since we share a similar memory and thus should support one another and demonstrate to one another that we are all in this together.
It allows us to understand our past, which in return allows us to understand our present. Remembering your history is fundamental to being human.
Commemoration is key when it comes to any tragic events such as the Greek Genocide. To commemorate simply means to honour our ancestors' pain and suffering.
Even though we are physically apart, we can still make a public statement this year.
Even though we're apart, it doesn't give us an excuse to forget the hardships and the stories of our people.
We are fortunate enough to have this modern technology where we can do things like this video.
Being physically apart within our own local communities means that we're all connecting in the same way and gives us the opportunity to connect more as a federation across Australia.
United, we can send a strong message that although we have suffered in the past, Pontians are still here, together, proud and stronger than ever.
Together, we are stronger, and although physically we won't be together, we are together in spirit and by means of modern technology.
Remember the Greek Pontian Genocide 2020 and beyond.
Έναν πουλήν.
Καλόν πουλήν.
Ευγέν από την πόλη.
Ουδές σαμπελιακόνεψεν, ουδές σαπελιβόλια.
Επίεν και ανακόνεψεν, Αγιά Σοφία στην πόρτα.
Έδειξε το έναν το φτερόν, σωέμαν βουτυγμένο, και σ' άλλο το φτερόν, χαρτί βαστά γραμμένο.
Αυτό κανείς και αναγνώ, κανείς ξέρει το λέει.
Μη δε και ο πατριάρχης μου, με όλους τους παπάδες.
Κι έναν παιδίν, καλόν παιδίν, πάει και ανάγνωθ.
Σίτα αναγνώθη, σίτια κλαίει, σίτια κρούει την καρδίαν.
Να ηλεί εμάς και βάει εμάς, παρθένη Ρωμανία. Παρθένη Ρωμανία, έραν το βασίλος καν, έλα αίμα παιδιά, πέραν το βασίλος καν, έλα αίμα παιδιά. Πέρασε ανθή και φέρει